I am a programmer, and so I'm in the model of Sid Meier. So Sid is both a programmer and a designer. And that comes from the days where he used to make games basically by himself. But Sid, to this day, continues to program on every game he works on. And so that's the model we have at Firaxis, which I think is fairly unique in the industry. There are some other guys like that. But I come from that same background. I started as a programmer, and then working for Sid, I became a designer. And so what that allows me to do is I can write prototypes really fast, and when I have design ideas, I can put them in myself, which sometimes terrifies everybody on the team because I'll just work over the weekend and then come in and say, hey, everything's different. So it's good. It's both good and bad. But I mean, I think in general, like at Firaxis, we certainly love for our designers to be programmers. I've worked for Sid for 12 years now, and he's really important to me. I mean, he's my mentor professionally. He's taught me everything that I know. Everything that I have is basically from him. And Sid Meier, even though he doesn't have to be, he's the nicest person on earth, you know. And so I didn't get that from him, but like certainly working for him, like a lot of times what would happen is he designed something and then I would play it and give him feedback on it, and that's a lot easier than being the actual designer like I do now. So now what happens is that I design on my own game, and then when that doesn't work, I go to Sid and I cry, and Sid makes me feel better. But a lot of times I'll ask Sid like, hey, what would you do in this situation? Or I really want the game to work like this, or I'm trying to accentuate this part of the design. And Sid will give me, you know, very, very good answers about that stuff. So having him in-house is like, it's a gift for any designer. Being able to go to Sid and say, look, you know, this isn't working, or, you know, tell me what to do in this situation. So he has a pretty big influence on the design of the game just because he has such a big influence on me. You just mentioned the name XCOM, and that evokes a really strong response in a lot of people. And then I think the challenge there is that anything that you change, you know, people can have a little anxiety about, which I don't blame them for. I mean, I think that all comes from a good place, which is that people care about the game and they want it to be good, and they want it to be, you know, they want it to honor the name of XCOM, which I'm comfortable with. So yeah, I mean, at the same time, you have to be true to the original game, and then you have to, if you can come up with an idea that you think improves the experience, then you have to put that in as well. And I think that's where some anxiety comes from, but I'm confident once people get the game in their hands, you know, they'll be happy. And the flip side of that is new players as well. It's like, how do you introduce new players to a game, you know, that has its roots almost 20 years in the past? And I think that the hope is that if we continue to stay true to what XCOM is, then that magic from the original game still exists. I mean, plenty of people, including myself, still play that game to this day, and that magic still exists. And if we can recreate that magic, then I think it'll be easy to get new players. The reason we feel so confident about it is that you know, to go back earlier, the idea that I'm a programmer. So my very first prototype for this game was basically the original game. I made a very rough version of the original game. So we had all those original elements like time units. And then when we replaced it with this new system, we were able to say, look, we were just playing this other system yesterday. We're playing this new system today. What does everybody think? And everybody loved it. The things that I'm personally really, really like is I really like the bass. Like, the bass was always something that I was always very excited about, and we'd always thought of it being this sort of ant farm view of your little soldiers walking around. And when that finally took shape, and that's really due to Dave Black, the artist who like built the bass, like once that finally took shape and we started seeing all these like elements moving and the people walking around, like that was a really, really big moment for me. That was definitely a really, really big moment. So yeah, I mean, if I was to pick one thing, I'd either pick that or the character customization. It's the Unreal Engine, and so of course we have the engine and the Unreal Editor, and then yeah, our artists use 3ds Max. We're a 3ds Max house. And then, you know, our concept artists, of course, have all their Cintiqs where they draw on these big digital tablets. They're amazing what they can do. And then, you know, programmers, we use all the typical stuff, Visual Studio and things like that. But yeah, our artists are, you know, 3ds Max typically imported into the Unreal Engine. that was probably the #1 technical challenge in the game. I mean, you don't see that. I don't know if other Unreal Engine titles do that. That's something that we did in-house, and it was something really, really impressive done by our programmers and our artists. That was the biggest technical challenge, and that didn't come together until years of work, years and years of work. It's really challenging to be able to build art assets and then have them all be destroyed by, you saw there in the demo, you shoot a rocket launcher at that front of that building, or that berserker, when he runs through a wall, like, you need all those things to shatter and break apart in realistic ways. And that was a very, very big technical challenge. And so, yeah, everything is sort of like pre-fractured, and there's physics involved. It's all the effects. It's crazy. We've basically built systems within the Unreal Engine and within the editor that sort of allow us to then, look at like how a building's going to destroy. So we can like preview, they can click on it and watch the building destroy through different ways, things like that. So, yeah, we've got some guys, some of our like hardcore programmers and artists and technical artists in-house are devoted to that. We haven't brought any tech over because the Civ is sort of an in-house engine. But and Unreal, obviously is external tool. But yeah, I mean, we do bring a lot of. It's certainly helped us in terms of the expertise. Some of the things are the same. Fog of War is kind of the same. But there are a lot of elements that are similar. That we can lean on our experience developing Civ titles. But actually, the two technology bases are completely separate. They're two entirely different tool chains. We do mocap for a lot of the scenes. I mean, unless you're talking about some of the crazy aliens that we have to keyframe, right? A lot of the scenes are mocapped. The alien scenes are keyframed by keyframed by our animators in-house. The scenes involving humans, typically we can mocap. And so we'll do that at a mocap studio, and we'll record the audio over that, and that all happens out of house, but our animation director is always there to oversee the mocap. But yeah, so we've got both. I mean, we've got a lot of mocap for our soldiers, because that's the easy way to do it. But for the alien characters and some of the more bizarre alien characters, we have no choice but to keyframe those by hand. Yeah, we use face effects for some of the lip syncing. So some lip syncing, we have like a tool called Face Effects, which is an Unreal tool, which allows you to, or an Unreal plugin, which allows you to sort of animate to an audio track. And you see with things like Uncharted, the idea of now mocapping actors as they act, and that's something we're interested in too. The idea of your actors mocapping the scene, but also recording the audio from that scene. So you're actually getting the actors' performances. So the guys who are doing the voice may also be the ones who are doing the mocap. And then you get like an actual acted out scene, which I think is pretty exciting. And I think that that's going to certainly continue to appear in more titles. And that's something we're interested in as well. Even in a game like XCOM, which isn't a particularly narrative game, I think you still want to acknowledge when the player achieves these big moments, you want to acknowledge them with big cinematic rewards, and the player enjoys those. I mean, I think that we even have like little clips in game. You saw in the demo there where, when you encounter a new alien, they have a short little 3 or 4 second cinematic clip the camera pulls in, or when you pull off a great kill shot, the camera will swoop around the sniper and follow the bullet. And those are the sorts of things that I think, again, they just lend a sense of like epicness to a game, and I think people really enjoy that.